What is up, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candace Marie, and I'm here to give you your highlights on the full moon in Taurus. It's Scorpio season. All these planets in Scorpio. We've got this full moon in Taurus. It's going to be really interesting energy, and I'm here to talk to you guys and give you the very first of my lunar highlights videos. Can you guys see my shirt? It might be backwards or not. I'm not sure, but okay, don't be a basic witch. I love this. I think it's very appropriate for Halloween season, but maybe this Halloween season's a little bit different. I, for one, have been noticing that Scorpio season kicked off with a fucking bang. We had all of this stuff that came out about, the sexual allegations against Harvey Weinstein and a lot of other people. Then we started hearing a lot of talk about the continual issues in regards to tax reform. And now we're seeing even more stuff that's coming out in terms of the release of the JFK files, or at least what they're saying is the complete file. I don't know about that, but I'm a conspiracy theorist. And then even more recently, the indictments and the charges that are being filed in regards to the Mueller Russia investigation. And so I'm actually filming this on the 29th. I did not want to wait. I have kind of my predictions about some things that are going to come out. But to those of you guys who like my astrology, government and all of that, those videos, I'll do one about that. Don't worry. All right, so let's get more so into the full moon. So we've got the full moon in Taurus that's coming. It's going to be here on the evening of November 3rd to those of you guys on the west, and the very early hours of November 4th to those of you guys in the eastern parts of the states. So it is at 11:58, so basically 12 degrees of Taurus. So the full moon in Taurus is going to hit at 10:23 p.m. Pacific or 1:23 a.m. Eastern times. Check your guys' times accordingly. Adjust it if you need to. It can be kind of confusing when we have these lunar cycles when we've got 2 different days. But also remember that you guys have 3 working days: the day before, the day of, and the day after for wrapping things up, setting intentions, doing your magic, doing your rituals. Really good time, especially right now when the veil is so thin, to be charging crystals, to be charging earth elements, herbs, things like that. So those of you guys who are getting ready for Halloween time, it's witches season. All right, so this moon is going to be different because it's a super moon. So basically, it's a moon on steroids. It's going to be a little bit bigger. It will appear bigger. It doesn't necessarily mean that it is, but as the relation to the moon and the Earth, it's going to look a little bit bigger. We're calling it a super moon. So can this enhance the effects of this moon? Yes, absolutely. And this moon is particularly interesting because I think a lot of secrets are getting ready to be revealed. Not only because it has to do with, this, the Scorpio time, and you're seeing this opposition of the sun and the moon, but Taurus is like what we hold on to and what we know to be true, what provides us with security. And so this completion in Taurus with the opposition of the sun in Scorpio with Jupiter and Mercury, I think is really speaking to, hold on, let us give you the facts before you determine, what's really going on. And there's a lot of Neptune play here in general. So overall, I think this is a good moon, but it can be a little bit hazy. Full moons are cycles of completion, okay? So when we see these full moons, it's the opposition of the sun in one degree or one sign with the opposition of, the moon in the other. So this full moon in Taurus, it has a lot of opposition to Scorpio, which is like death, sex, and taxes, but quite literally, it can be a lot of that with Jupiter and Mercury's influence right now. This moon, we're also going to see that, Pluto in Capricorn is going to trine, and so there is a very deep kind of look deeper, look beneath the murky water, question things. Things are coming out from beneath that may not have been seen. Now, it can be manipulative and dark, or it can be transformational and more kind of like Phoenix-like. And like I said, with this moon, I actually am kind of digging it. I love the aspects. We do have the Sun conjunct Jupiter, which is certainly lending energy to us needing to dig deeper and getting more information, especially as Mercury moves to later degrees of Scorpio. This is when shit gets kind of intense and we kind of like, you know, all of a sudden start figuring out the facts, or stuff starts kind of coming out of nowhere and we kind of get sidelined and realize that there were things that were hidden and not, you know, not necessarily exposed. And so with full moons, it can be a time where there are endings. It's not abnormal for that, especially when Jupiter is involved in Scorpio. This will be a particularly interesting moon because I do think that secrets are going to be exposed. And because it's playing so heavily with Pluto, these secrets might be things that have to do with corruption or things that may have been concealed. There is a lot of room here to get the facts and get honesty and have compassion during this moon. So I don't think it's harshly aspected. We're also seeing that Neptune in Pisces is making sextiles during the time of the full moon. And so this Neptune energy is very dreamy. And when it's working with Scorpio, it's let's cut deeper and let's see what's really going on. This is a very emotional, very psychic, very, you know, metaphysical and romantic kind of energy. It can be dreamy, but it can also be a really great time to do some really deep psychic, spiritual, soul investigative type work. It's a really great time to be doing some really intense karmic work or clearing things out or practicing sacred sex, especially since Venus is the ruling sign of Taurus. I look at this as being very earthy. You know, Taurus is very working with, you know, with the element of earth, with the dirt, with the rocks, and with the crystals, and with the trees. And with Scorpio's opposition, I think it's able to complement this very nicely and kind of show that there can be some really intense sexual situations that are going on that can actually be quite therapeutic and quite healing. What else do I got here? The Sun conjunct Jupiter is also knowledge and information that's coming through occult practices, coming through psychic experiences or research. We've also got the fire trine that's still at play. I've talked about this a couple of times, but we do have Uranus that is still in Aries. We've got Saturn in Sagittarius that's now approaching the galactic center point, and it's making a trine to the North Node in Leo. And so this trine is still very much in play, and it's basically about us evolving and growing, you know, together, but also spiritually, and living in a more heart-centered space and being able to feel more heart-centered in terms of our activities. Now, the themes of like this Aries and Libra opposition that we've been seeing throughout the past year comes back. And so we have had throughout 2017 off and on Jupiter-Uranus oppositions, and it's been chaotic, to say the least, in terms of relationships, because we've got Uranus and Aries going, me, I need to change, I need to evolve, I need to rebel. But then we've also got like Jupiter that has been in Libra going, okay, but we're learning through our partners. And so a lot of people have found that relationships have either completely got, you know, removed this year and they've ended, or they have found that they have kind of had a rebirth and they've grown together, and a lot of people have actually found strength in relationships and been able to assert boundaries and healthy boundaries where we're growing together rather than growing apart. So you guys might see, because Venus is in an opposition to Uranus at the time of the full moon, that these themes come back. And I actually think it's kind of nice with Taurus and Scorpio, because I can see this as like a divine union of, you know, I honor what you need by walking my own path and also being somebody supportive of you and mirroring you and encouraging, you know, independence, but also I walk with you rather than I walk behind you or I walk ahead of you. So there is a lot of like divine union energy that's very sensual, very karmic during this full moon. One of the other things that I've got here is that we're also seeing, fertility, creativity, kind of comes with a full moon. There can be a sense of people starting to do financial planning and thinking more about money owed, handling, loans, or handling paying off any debt, trying to get more financially sound, or becoming more financially independent. There can be a sense of people wanting to really evaluate, we're coming to the end of 2017, how they have done financially in this past year. Some of you guys might be actually looking at loans to improve your finances, or to build further into your own personal businesses and your own creative endeavors. Scorpio and Taurus also, they're fixed signs. And so I probably will make this the headline for the video, but I would call this a death grip. Because Taurus understands that everything is planted and it grows from the earth. Scorpio understands that trees die and that they are reborn. So it's this period of planting seeds and then letting go of the season and letting things change. We are very stubborn being fixed signs. I say that because I'm a Scorpio, but we can have a tendency to have a death grip on the way we know how to do things. And so the one thing that I can see that can come from this is, with the Neptune influence, kind of a little bit of like seeing what we want to see, being a little bit too attached to how things have been. I think that this full moon can give you a really nice insight as to potentially what November and maybe even the rest of this next year has to offer you, and where we have to learn to grow and move away issues in terms of manipulation, corruption, and all of this placement in Pluto. Scorpio tells you, don't fear the dark. Like, it's okay to get down to the nitty gritty and face all of the things that we don't want to face. Deal with the parts of ourselves that we might consider too scary or too touchy or too taboo, or necessarily not appropriate. And I think that this can be very complimentary because there's so much of a focus on this 8th house or on this Scorpio energy to really kind of like release anything and give ourselves the security that we need to be able to like keep trekking on. So that's something else that I wanted to mention, especially with Mercury in some of the later degrees of Scorpio. As I mentioned earlier, what it's really doing is it's waking us up to discussions and stirring up the shadow self and kind of going like, oh, that's that spot inside of you internally that makes you feel insecure, or that's that topic that's too touchy, or that's that issue that makes you feel like you're not safe in relationships or financially or healthy, or you don't have what you need. These are what are going to come up during this moon. And what's important is to recognize it and to be okay with it and to kind of welcome it with open arms, because the way that Scorpio energy works is kind of like a super agent or a secret spy. It finds all of the cracks and all of the crevices. It's very slow, and it works very slowly where it gets into those cracks and crevices and it seeps into the foundation, where it's able to massage and manipulate and bring out all of the things that bother you. So if you work with that, it's actually going to help you in the long run, and I think that maybe you'll have a better understanding of the energies at play in November. So what's important is to welcome these topics with open arms, because the more that we kind of surrender and give way to whatever needs to be changed, the easier the next couple of years are going to be, especially as Saturn gets into Capricorn and starts making these positive sextiles to Jupiter next year to really kind of push the river and, put us in situations where we have to welcome change and we have to allow it to develop as it may. So, still stand your ground on topics of relationships and boundaries, though, because certainly, with karma and with sexual situations of Scorpio, you might find that you have some partners that are going to be very kind of one focus or one level in terms of their belief systems. So it can be hard to find union or to find middle ground on some of these topics that may have to do with relationships or our sexual partners, or maybe even our joint finances and how we're agreeing on financial situations. And so the key here is to be open, to not have the death grip, to not feel like we are, definitely holding on to a situation and not letting go. I think I've talked about this in previous videos, and I've said this probably to dozens and dozens of clients, but this is very death card energy to me, not only in a sense of like the earthiness about it and the fact that if we let something go, it's going to regenerate, but more in a sense of like the emotional side of it. It's like, you know, with funerals, we've got two different people. The people who are wearing the Hawaiian shirts and they're totally stoked that the person who has passed on has like moved on and transcended to the next space and the next realm, and that they're no longer in pain and that they're in a better place and they're jumping around and they're happy and they're partying and they're drinking at the funeral or at the wake. Or you've got like that aunt that's like screaming and crying and she has like a death grip on the casket and just won't let go and won't let go. You, one way or another, this month are going to be faced with the death energy. Physical, emotional, spiritual rebirth and regeneration. And so the key here is to welcome it with open arms, not to drag our feet, not to see what we don't want to see, because Scorpio energy is not going to allow that to happen. I feel like the Scorpio Taurus opposition is like so literal and it's so like here it is, that you know the Scorpio can be complementary in a sense of the emotional and the karmic reasons why things are happening, but you know, Taurus is very physical and very tangible. So if changes need to be made or there are emotional situations that are brewing, like it's literally going to physically come out sometime around the full moon. And so it's important to take note of that. As I mentioned before, part of this I do believe has to do with tax reform. And so we're seeing a lot of things that are shifting in terms of you know, tax reform in the United States and how we're choosing to handle it and whether or not we're able to get things passed, what information is being released in the United States that has been sensitive or classified information. And now we have these physical, tangible elements of proof, whether it's legally, whether it's financially, whether it's documents, whether it's, you know, people being pulled in because of, you know, stuff that has been happening in government. There is going to be some wild stuff that's going to happen in the next couple of weeks as a result of this moon. And what Taurus is saying is, I have it tangibly, I have the proof. Everything that's going on behind the scenes, that's stirring the muck, that's pushing everything to the surface, that's Scorpio. That's basically the beginning of Scorpio season. That's really showing everybody you can't hide. You can't hide things that threaten the foundation. It's important to remove it. So this moon might actually be insight as to what you can be expecting for the next month and maybe even the next year. All right, so let's go ahead and get into talking about the horoscopes and the predictions for each and every one of the zodiac signs. To those of you guys who are not already looking or reading your horoscope or listening to your horoscope for your sun and your rising and your moon, please do so. If you don't know that information, you can hop on astro.com or you can get on an astrology birth chart calculator online and you can get that information. All you need is the time, the date, and the location of where you were born to be able to find your sun, moon, and ascendant. I personally find that my ascendant is probably the most accurate for my readings or for my month ahead. So you guys want to listen to the ascendant and the sun sign. So really pay attention to that. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with Aries because Aries is number one. If you ain't first, you last. So Aries, guys, this is your second house. And I think that this is very interesting because it really amplifies what I was talking about. It's talking about the changes that are going on with your finances. If you see this opposition, it's between your second house and your eighth house. What's interesting is that, you know, the full moon is showing up in your second house, but it's opposing your eighth. So there can be stuff that's going on in terms of you closing a financial deal. Some of you guys might even be finding that you're switching jobs, you're changing jobs, you're saying goodbye to one way of making income and you're saying hello to another. Some of you guys might actually be getting paid back. You know, all of that Mercury, Sun, Jupiter in your eighth might be highlighting that something was owed to you. Maybe you're wrapping up your taxes. Those of you guys who have had extensions and things like that, you're trying to financially kind of get everything in motion. Here's the card that I have for Taurus for the full moon. Excuse me, for Aries for the full moon. Hello. And I have Knight of Swords. The Nine of Swords is somebody who is in action. So there might be a message, an email, a letter, somebody who's coming to you that's also saying, hey, you may want to act on this quickly. This might be a situation where you might be having to potentially sign a contract, agree to something financially. Some of you guys might even be taking action and being able to kind of handle any issues in terms of debt. So certainly pay attention to what's going on with your finances this month, and if you have the opportunity or given the opportunity to make a change, or somebody who's willing to financially help you make a change, act on it accordingly, because we don't really have too many aspects this month that's making me concerned in the finance department. I actually think that you have the opportunity to get ahead on a financial matter. All right. So Taurus, this is your full moon, and this is happening in your first house, the house of self. So certainly there's some kind of completion about, what's going on with your physical body. Some of you guys might actually be making some physical changes and making some updates. Many Tauruses are really kind of getting it on in terms of making changes to their wardrobe. Remember, you're ruled by Venus. Making changes to your hair, buying some new clothes, taking care of your physical body, because Jupiter is actually making its way into your 7th house. So there is a focus here on what's happening with your relationships, and you might be sprucing yourself up a little bit. You might be focusing on that and trying to figure out how you can better be more in alignment with how you want to be presenting yourself or how you want to be looking. Certainly there's going to be many suitors and people who are showing up if you are single. This can also have to do with how you're presenting yourself and wanting to be a little bit more put together if you're also seeking more professional relationships and things in this arena. So this is a big year for Tauruses, for those of you guys who are single, and this is going to be the beginning of the season where you start kind of sprucing yourself up and I think getting ready to meet other people. You might also be finding that there are, people approaching you who want to work with you. And so I want you to take your time, because as planets like, the Sun, Mercury, Jupiter, and Venus will be coming soon, move through your 7th house, you'll have an extended period of time of being able to get a feel for all of the new characters who start showing up in your life. But this is somehow you are completing something about yourself. The money you make, the money you're spending potentially, how you look, something that might have to do also with you being in transit. So let's see which card comes up for you. And this is the Wheel of Fortune. All right. Fated encounters. I see this also as kind of like divine intervention. The wheel is turning, things are coming into your favor. This also a lot has to do with Jupiter. So like I said, people who are going to be helping you, Taurus, people who are noticing you and also more likely to be involved in giving you, whether that's benefiting you financially, benefiting you in terms of a relationship, but wanting to kind of cater to you. So take advantage of this time, because I think one of the themes of this moon is learning to also work with other people and finding that middle ground. You might be so used to doing all of the hard work yourself. It could be hard, or it could be very difficult for you to learn to lean on partnerships. And so people are showing up to help support you this month. Let them help you. All right. So then we've got Gemini, and Gemini, this is your 12th house. So full moon in the 12th house, particularly interesting this month, especially with Neptune's placement. You might intuitively be picking some stuff up that's going on. You might be receiving some messages. You might be also having to square away any financial situations or money that's being spent. You really want to look over any bills or anything of that nature, because I could totally see with the 12th house, 6th house stuff, if you're going and routinely paying bills, there could be potentially a double charge. Or there could be something that's unaccounted for. You might find that you're having to spend a little bit more money or spend a little bit more time focusing on your health and organization this month. And so this is going to be a big theme that's really going to help you succeed, especially as you're coming to the end of Saturn opposing your Sun. Look out for unaccounted, financial situations. There might be more of a sense of you also having to pay more attention to going and getting all the nitty-gritty details done. There might be a little bit of extra or excess unexpected, little details and little odds and ends jobs that you have to do. But really in the long run, I think that this is beneficial because it's going to clear your mind and remove any, concern or any worry or any stress about not getting jobs done, ahead of time. If it's, going and cleaning out the house, or if it's going and, running to the grocery store earlier in the week, or asking for help also with people in your home or people in your life to help you get some of these tasks done. There might be some stuff that comes up around coworkers and issues with coworkers, especially if there's anything where you're working with other people and you're having to take into account finances, or if you're having to count a drawer or anything, count it twice. Really pay attention to anything that has to do with money in the workplace and make sure that you have a very clear communication, because there can be miscalculations or slip-ups that are unexpectedly going on. You also want to make sure that any financial agreements are crystal clear this month, Gemini. It's important not to look over any of the details. Here's the card that I have for you for the full moon, and it is the Empress. So this is interesting because you may very well be even communicating and talking to somebody about how you can get into better health, or how you can be kind of managing your mental, emotional, physical health, because the opposition of the 6th house plays heavily into this. It's how do we lean on other people to help us show new innovative ways of changing our routine, eating better, feeling better, being better organized. The Empress is an indication that there could be new beneficial situations that arise from getting organized, or just healthier state of mind all around. So it's a pretty good reading for Gemini for this month. Moving on to Cancer. So Cancer, this is your 11th house. So this has to do with your associations, hopes, dreams, wishes, and friendships. So we look at the 11th, but we also look at the 5th house. What's interesting about you guys is that when we see a full moon in your 11th house, you may have a friend, maybe that's getting into a serious relationship. You might be hearing that people are getting married. You might be getting invitations to go and celebrate and have dinners or social engagements because people are celebrating major milestones this month. So there could potentially be a big social event on the calendar that you need to go and appear in, which is a good thing. I think it's good for you to take a little bit of a break and get out there and enjoy some friends. But there also might be business negotiations and business talk that's going on. Lots of networking this month for Cancer. You guys have been working really hard and preparing a lot of the stuff that you've been working on professionally. And so this might be a time where you're able to show this off a little bit, or kind of mingle with like-minded people. There is an opportunity here for you to have some romance in the air also. Having all these planets in Scorpio are really good for taking chances in romance. And so you might find that by getting out there and being social, you'll have the opportunity to meet somebody new. If you are partnered, there might be a theme here where there is talk of getting more serious in a relationship, potentially even seeing that you've got other people in your social circles that are getting married, having babies, settling down. This might lead to talks with your partners about getting a little bit more serious about your future relationships. So pay attention to that. For Cancer, the card that I get is 6 of Cups. So you may be very well catching up with old friends, talking to people from the past, reconnecting with people and friends you haven't seen for some time. This may be as a result of a social connection, or you might be seeking them out. So also, that is very much childlike energy. And with that 5th house opposition, there may be a sense of you looking at your friends and going, I'm ready to take the next step. Maybe I'm thinking about, having a baby, expanding my family, maybe being more serious about my romantic partners. Some of you guys might be thinking about even getting married. So pay attention to what's going on around you socially, because you might be next. All right. Then we have Leo. Leo, this is excellent. You're coming into your power time because here is a full moon in the 10th house. The 10th house has to do with your career and what's going on in your career, but also with that opposition, what's going on in your home. Now, as the North Node is making its way somewhere around your ascendant, your moon, or your sun, there is a focus on what is going on with your career, how you physically or emotionally relate to it. Now, for a 10th house full moon, you might be showing a project, you might be getting a payout on a job, you might be looking for a raise, you may be having an evaluation financially on the kind of money that you would like to be making from an employer, or dealing with superiors in terms of asking for more money or financial raises. If this is a matter of you putting, everything on the line and giving a presentation or talking to a superior about money, the stars are in your favor this month. You may be really showing off your skills and your capabilities, and somebody is going to be noticing you and seeing what you're doing. Now, this is a part of a larger transit that's going on with the fire trines, like I was talking about, but also everything that has to do with the North Node. Some of you guys are saying goodbye to one job and hello to another, and it may very well be the time that you're making this jump, because Scorpio is a fixed sign. It will be making squares to you at some point. So the pressure can be on for you to move on to projects, careers, relationships, even family situations that are more so in alignment with your heart's desire. This might be the month that you get that final push to take the jump. This might be the month where you get recognized. The card that I get for you is the Six of Wands. It's interesting because I also see this as a homecoming. So this can be talking about success, victory. You might be winning something. You might be getting the raise. You might be getting the job. You might be getting the recognition. There are people around you celebrating your accomplishments and taking note of the changes that you're making. Good job, Leo. All right, so now we've got Virgo, and Virgo, this is your 9th house. So we look at that 9th and 3rd house opposition. Some of you guys might be thinking about starting to put some money down in terms of travel and making plans for the end of the year. You could also be kind of taking a look at, completing something. You might be wrapping up some type of education or wrapping up something that has to do with a program. Many of you guys also are now starting to take more time and doing research or getting more information this year about kind of expanding your belief system or expanding your horizons in terms of your career or travel. I think also what you're going to see a lot of is potentially, especially when Mars gets into the mix here, of you planning short distance trips or long distance trips or starting to financially plan for this. This can be the holidays or even going into next year. There might be a lot of themes going on also in terms of siblings, talking to siblings, getting information, downloading information, and also potentially dealing with a method of transportation. So if you guys are having issues with transportation or kind of finding yourself on the move, plan accordingly, think on your feet. Jupiter is certainly going to throw you some unexpected curveballs, so you might want to double and triple check your travel plans. The card that I get for you is the Hermit. This is also speaking to your spiritual studies. And so those of you guys who maybe have been considering, different types of religious or, spiritual belief systems, many Virgos in the past year have kind of woken up and I think been introduced to new forms of spirituality and other ways of thinking that has really improved your ability to connect on relationships and financially. Some of you guys might be considering taking the next step in forms of, higher education, formal education, going and getting licenses, or potentially even going to other places to study. When we think about the Hermit, we think about picking up, going somewhere, finding ourselves, and then returning with knowledge. So if that's what you're thinking about, I think it's probably a good move. All right, now we've got Libra. Libra, this is your 8th house. Kind of interesting having that flip there. And having the housing systems a little bit different. So, we've got everything moving into your financial sector. There certainly is more of a focus on the money you're spending, how you're, planning on making more of it, how you're spending what you've got, how you're handling your debt. There may be unexpected financial situations that are going on. And so remember, if you're looking at expanding your money, sometimes it takes money to make money. So you might be looking at your overall money in the bank, what you've spent, how you want to be able to grow. And this is a good month for you guys to talk to a financial advisor or potentially paying off some debt, especially whenever I see 8th house full moons in Taurus. It's a really nice time to kind of look over everything that you've got going on. If you're not currently dealing with debt situations or paying stuff off, it's how you can get to the next step to being able to get to make larger purchases like homes and cars and things of that nature. There's also a lot of sexual energy that comes with this and a lot of karmic energy. So there can be a lot of, stuff that can help you sexually this month, energetically, with, I think, Jupiter and even with Mercury, there's a lot of talking about this is what I have and this is where I want to go. I think the one thing that Libras are going to learn is that they may potentially become a little less materialistic this month and next month, and may focus more on what they have on an emotional level, or their ability to sexually bond to a partner, or find some really intense sexual healing that's going on with this energy. So let's see what Libra has got for this month, and it looks like the King of Swords. This is also a really good time. You know, you've got this full moon in your 8th house, which also has to do with the occult. And if you are receiving messages or getting messages, this can be from, you know, your own intuitive abilities, but also messages that you may be getting from professionals. Really listen, because I feel like any advice that could be coming from you with that King of Swords is potentially an air sign or a professional who is very intellectual and very intelligent and can tell you what's going to be happening. Because I see this 2nd and 8th house as to, here's how you are now, here's how you can grow. So you might even be getting a financial overview or a psychic reading, or a tarot reading that might be really helpful and very insightful for the energies that are at play. All right. Now we've got Scorpio, and for you Scorpios, this is your 7th house. So a full moon in your 7th house is interesting because at times this can be a make or break situation. Now what's interesting about this is I don't see this being an end of the world situation. I actually really feel like this is good for you guys. I think that this is kind of showing you that you can open yourselves back up to love. I talked a lot at the end of last year about how Scorpios were still going through this clearing process, and they were preparing for new relationships to come in, or they're clearing old relationship karma, or, you know, they're learning how to work with people better. Here's when people start showing up. And if you're in relationships that aren't working, it may have to go, because here come all of the planets through your 1st house, and it's bringing all of the attention to you, especially when, you know, Mercury and Mars and the Sun show up. You start seeing that all of a sudden it's like, what do I need to change about myself? Or, you know, what do I want? That's a huge theme, especially with this Venus-Uranus opposition, because there are a lot of things that are going on still that are kind of stemming from the past couple of months, where many Scorpios are having to get the hang of letting go of toxic relationships, or letting go of fears in relationships. You know, if you haven't had a relationship in some time, now is a really good time for you to be getting into one, but you have to be in the right state of mind. So be aware that there are certain shifts that are going on in relationships. I actually pulled 2 cards. So the first card that I got was the 3 of Swords. Not a good card. That can represent an ending. The second card I get is the 3 of Pentacles. So you actually might be learning how to have healthy endings if it needs to end, how to constructively talk and work through the process of ending things if it needs to. And endings aren't always like a physical blow up. I mean, although in true Scorpio style, some of us will just have a breakup that's so bad that it'll just like burn the house down. But it's learning a proactive way and a productive way to be able to go about ending things or taking the steps. Some of you guys might be having this full moon and going, whoa, this isn't working for me, or I need more. And as we get into November, you're going to see more of that energy at play. So hang in there, Scorps. Now we've got Sag, and so this full moon's in your 6th house. You might find that there is some kind of solution to diet-related stuff. There might be a solution, especially to, you know, how you can be saving money. You know, some of you guys might be finding deals, might be getting coupons, might be finding ads that might be showing you how you can save some money, or getting information about how you can improve your health and how you can save time on your daily routine. You might be really getting the hang of a schedule and figuring out how to best stick to that schedule, especially because Saturn is getting ready to leave Sagittarius. And I love when Saturn makes its last pass in a sign, because as it leaves you a gift. So you're looking at the next 2 months really kind of getting super grounded, super stable, kicking ass, and doing great. And some of you guys are still trying to figure out the swing of, you know, your new jobs, working for yourself, balancing your mind, body, spirit. So with this full moon in your 6th house, I think what you're finding is that it's all coming together. The card that I get for you is the 3 of Wands. And so this is talking about having an open perspective, being open-minded and going, wow, now I can really see how this all comes together and how this is all working together very divinely. So it's a lot of balance. Also, when I see threes, I think of like, you know, spiritual energy and spirit coming in and showing you, you know, the next step. So now that you guys might be getting a little bit better grounded in your career or in your routine, you're thinking about the next step. Here comes Capricorn, and this full moon is in your 5th house. So having this full moon in your 5th house, you guys might be finding that you're having to spend a little bit more money on your creative endeavors, wrapping up creative projects. You might be wrapping up anything that has to do with finances in relation to children. If you're going through a situation where you're looking at potentially needing to have more money for your kids, there can be time that's coming up, I think especially with Jupiter and Scorpio this whole year, any single parents or any issues where even there's money owed from creative projects if you haven't been paid. This is something that's going to kind of come to the surface this year, and you're going to start kind of taking charge of the money that's owed or the security. I also see this as very romantic energy for Capricorns because they feel like to have Taurus in the 5th house is indulging in this Venus energy of love and romance and flirting and creativity and fun. Remember, the 5th house is fun. So Caps, get out there, have some fun this month. I think participating in creative projects might actually bring you closer to a potential romantic encounter. I can also see that there is a lot of focus on your own individual interests. Some of you guys might be getting creative in the food department, and you might be playing a little bit more with ideas of what your diet is going to consist of and what you want to be eating. Many of you guys are also going to be wrapping things up with children, so there might be a sense of, you know, kids having to meet deadlines this month, kids having to get stuff done, having to get back and forth to recreational things or anything that would have to do with after-school stuff. There might be a little bit more action here in this department. All right, so for Capricorn, the card that I got for you is the High Priestess. I love that card because it's speaking to the Neptune energy. And so when I think about that, it's actually kind of more or less dancing in Pisces. And so that's going in and out of your guys's, let's see, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, your 3rd house. So your direct messages that you get. You guys also might have some influence in doing some channeling work this month. You might be getting some messages in a dream state or situations where you just start kind of journaling and logging things. This is also leading with your intuition this month. Jupiter's going to be making some nice aspects to either your sun, your moon, or your rising. So once it starts sextiling, I think it's really going to trigger your intuition. And it's important for you guys to pay attention to what may come in a dream state or something on an intuitive level, because you might be able to pick up on things before it happens this month. I think that Capricorns are starting to kind of wake up, and they're getting ready for Saturn to show up, and they're really kind of coming into their true selves and really seeing their strengths. So don't be afraid of any intuitive messages that you get. Now we have Aquarius, and this is your 4th house. So whenever we have a 4th house full moon, there can be a lot of action around the house. There can be a situation where maybe you're paying something off in terms of home renovations. Maybe you're having a lot of people in your home. There is a lot of focus about, planning the holidays and planning where you guys are going to celebrate, or doing a lot of cooking or celebration in the home. There can also be a sense of you maybe selling a home, or investing into a home, or figuring out, a financial situation. Especially with Jupiter being involved, it's how can we make the home life easier so we can do more externally in the 10th house in terms of our career. So there is a huge focus on, completing things in the home, tasks, or maybe people are leaving home or things of that nature. There will be an ending in relation to your physical home or your family. And because it's in Taurus, you might find that, you're, like I said, it can have to do with the financial side of things more than anything else. Or to those of you guys who might be kind of having some changes in your relationships, it can have to do with the partner potentially coming and going from a home this month. The card that I get for Aquarius is 7 of Coins. It looks like it might have to do with the investment that you're making into your home. And so if you're looking at reevaluating a mortgage, or looking at, paying off some kind of debt in relation to that, really think it through, get some solid advice. I think if you're also thinking long-term and potentially contemplating buying a home, it's an excellent time because there's an indication that you've been thinking about it for some time and you've been financially planning. So it looks like any moves that you make in regards to the home this month is going to be super smooth and extra beneficial for you, Aquarius. All right, and last but not least, we've got Pisces. So Pisces, guys, this is your third house that you're having this full moon in. This can have to do with, contracts, negotiations, especially in terms of money, restructuring contracts, renegotiating fees, talking to siblings, having to go out of town to take care of a job, potentially even having to travel. The travel is a huge theme with the full moon in your third and Jupiter now in your ninth. It's pretty safe to say that you guys are having to brush up on some skills, or somehow you're having to get out of town or even get out of your original way of learning or knowing things to be able to expand. So travel isn't always in a sense of physical travel. It can be exploration in education and astral travel even, especially because Pisces is especially going to benefit, I think, from this full moon because it's making some really nice sextiles, and all of the water influence is going to play really well for you. But you really have to be clear about your communication. And so the card that I got for you guys is Temperance, patience, alchemy, waiting for things to come together, waiting for the appropriate moment. You might be focusing on bringing different elements together, so you might have to go and collect things or information from different places. You might have to be waiting on other people and kind of going back and forth, sending texts, sending phone calls, sending emails. But there is some sense of Temperance saying that there is relief, there's peace. There is a sense of you really, taking your time on this and allowing it to kind of come together organically, and that you are going to have a conclusion, and a healthy conclusion to a situation, and clarity. I love being able to come and do this for you guys. And to those of you guys who have just recently started following my channel, thanks for following. I appreciate it. I appreciate your likes, your comments, and your shares. I will be back doing some more videos for you guys really soon. I'm actually getting ready to head to Boston, and I'm going to be making a trip to Salem. So stay tuned, because I'm leaving in a couple days, and I'll do some video blogs from there and talk about some of the cool witchy things that I found while I was on the East Coast. The next new moon that we're going to have will be in Scorpio, so of course I'll be back and do a video for that. And to those of you guys who want to book a personal reading with me, you can do so if you check out beyondtheveiltarot.com. You can go and see my services page and my bio, get a little feel for what I do, and hopefully I get a chance to work with some of you guys really soon. I will talk to all of you guys in a couple days, but until then, enjoy your full moon and have a happy Halloween. Bye!